It's another beautiful morning out here. It's a little lighter. It's really nice. I slept in a little bit. Last couple mornings I've been having to get up early. Had some things I had to be at 8 and 9, so I got out early and filmed. Beautiful morning though. Just gorgeous. So we've been talking about the Lord's Supper. And there's some things about the Lord's Supper that, when I've taken the Lord's Supper, just some things I think about that I think we all need to think about. Hold on, my dog's shaking the tripod here. Go get comfy, buddy. Sorry about that. I got my dog. He was sitting by the tripod there. So we'll just pick it up where we left off. Matthew 26:26. As they were eating, Jesus took bread, blessed it, broke it, gave it to the disciples, and said, "Take, eat. This is my body." And he took the cup and gave thanks and gave it to them, saying, "Drink from it, all of you, for this is my blood of the new covenant, which is shed for many for the remission of sins. But I say to you, I will not drink of this fruit of the vine from now on until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom." So there's something in the book of Luke that's mentioned about this account that isn't mentioned in Matthew, and I think it's real important we take a look at it to really understand what's going on here. So we're going to pick it up in Luke 22, starting verse 14. When the hour had come, he sat down, and the 12 apostles with him. And he said to them, "With fervent desire I have desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. For I say to you, I will no longer eat of it until it is fulfilled in the kingdom of God." And he took the cup and gave thanks and said, "Take this and divide it among yourselves. For I say to you, I will not drink of the fruit of the vine till the kingdom of God comes." And he took bread and gave thanks and broke it and gave it to them, saying, "This is my body, which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me." Likewise, he took the cup after supper, saying, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood, which is shed for you." Now, a couple things that are pointed out in Luke that aren't pointed out in Matthew is in 15 where a couple things. One, 15 where he says, "With fervent desire, I have desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer." Just further acknowledgement of who he is, what he knows, and what he came to do. It's critical we always see that because, I think a lot of people, especially new Christians, kind of think of Jesus, this moment where Jesus gets captured and beaten and crucified and then killed and buried. They think of that as a defeat, but there's so much victory in that, The moment he breathed his last breath, just all the weapons of the enemy was stripped out of their hands, and all they're left with is lies, blasphemy and lies. But he also said, "For I say to you, I will no longer eat of it until it is fulfilled in the kingdom of God." And then he took the cup and gave thanks and said, "Take this and divide it among yourselves. For I say to you, I will not drink of the fruit of the vine until the kingdom of God comes." And I want to make note of that particular verse because we talked about him drinking wine a few days ago, and he won't drink it again until that moment of the wedding feast here, when the kingdom comes here. And a lot of people say, well, I think he's talking about the kingdom up there in heaven. No, it says when the kingdom comes to this earth. So that wedding feast is when he will drink wine again. But there's so much more. There's just a couple side notes. That's not the point of this. And he took bread, gave thanks, and broke it, and gave it to them, saying, "This is my body, which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me." And that's really kind of what I want to focus on, is this idea of remembrance. Because communion, for many people, is a ritual. You were told to do it when you were young. Maybe it's very ritualistic at your church. There's a process. You got to do this, then you got to do that. You got to go to this class, and you do this, then you got to do that, and then you go through these ritualistic things. There's no remembrance of rituals. The remembrance piece is really realizing what it is he did. This is my body broken for you. This is my blood shed for the new covenant. for you. And that piece of remembrance is the part that I think everybody struggles with. Every time I take communion, I don't care how fast they want to go or who wants to come forward or what you got to chant or what, no, none of that. When I take communion, I get on my knees and I sob and pray. Because I want to remember. I mean, I wasn't there, but I know what he did for me. I want to remember those things. I love communion. It's one of the most beautiful things there is. But it has to stop being ritualistic. There has to be this moment of remembrance, not just chanting and reciting some words and none of that. It's foolish, it's wicked. Remembrance, really remembering his body broken for you, what he did for you. When I take communion, it takes me like 10 minutes to take communion. I just get on my knees and sigh. They're all moving on to something different. But I'm still there because I can't get over that. Every time you break bread and drink that little thing of grape juice or wine, or, stop worrying about what people around you are thinking. Stop worrying about the rituals that they're chanting at you. Stop worrying about, just shut all that out. Be in the dark by yourself in the quiet of your mind. And remember what he did for you. He could have decreated the entire universe with a spoken word. But instead, he laid down on that cross, voluntarily laid down on that cross. He could have had an innumerous amount of angels come and destroy the Roman Empire in a millisecond. He could have had one angel come destroy the Roman Empire in a millisecond. He could have destroyed the Roman Empire with a spoken word. But he didn't. He laid there, took a beating, and laid there, and let him nail him to that cross and hang him up. Because that's what he came to do. That's what he was there for. Mission accomplished. Saving you and me. And we have to get past this chanting, ritualistic thing that communion has become in so many places. And it has to go back to the basics. Just remember, this is my body broken for you, When I think about that, when I'm sitting there with that piece of bread in my hand and I'm thinking about his body broken for me, nobody's ever done that for me. I know soldiers do, unknown soldiers do it all the time, and, they lay down their lives for us. But not personally. Nobody said, Mark, I'm thinking of you when I do this. He thought of you. He thought of your name. And in this moment, all he asks is just remember that. Remember this. Remember this. It's remembrance. That cracker and bread dissolves in your mouth. Just remember the beating he took. It's a remembrance for you. He didn't have to. He chose to. Because he wants to be with you. He doesn't want to be separated from you. You can't enter into purity with the baggage that you have. If you tell one little lie and you enter into heaven, you've corrupted heaven and it becomes just like earth. And God can't let that happen. Darkness can't exist in the light. So he made a way. And unfortunately for him, that way meant a beating and a crucifixion. And then 3 days in hell, bound. Not just hanging out in hell, but bound in Sheol. And this whole thing we do, this ritualistic thing with communion, has to stop. It has to stop. When you do communion, it has to be about remembering him and what he did. Not about this going through the motions. It's the third Sunday, so we're doing communion. That's wicked. Remembrance. Remember. This is my body broken for you. Remember that. This is my blood shed for you. Remember that. We have to go back to what it is these disciples experienced and understand what it is he was telling us to do in this communion. No more communion classes or just, no. Do this in remembrance of me. This is my body broken for you. This is my blood shed for you. Do this in remembrance of that. Hope these videos are helping. Have any thoughts or comments on that? Definitely put that below. If you like this video, click like and subscribe. Feel called to support this channel, the Patreon, that link is also below. But the most important part of this channel is we take prayer requests, so please don't ever hesitate to send that in. Thank you for watching this episode of God, Family, and Guns. And as always, love God, love your family, and love guns.